Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really powerful theory that tries to make sense of the global chaos we're all feeling. It suggests this isn't random at all. It's actually part of a predictable pattern that's been repeating for the last 500 years. That pretty stark warning comes from the billionaire investor Ray Dalio, who founded the world's largest hedge fund. His point is, what we're seeing right now isn't just a temporary rough patch. He thinks it's a fundamental shift away from the dollar-based system that's pretty much run the world for decades. And you know what? He's not the only one thinking this way. If you listen to what's being said at big global meetings like the Munich Security Conference or in Davos, you'll hear a powerful consensus forming. Leaders are openly saying that the world order that was set up after World War II, the one with all the specific rules and alliances we've lived with, is, for all intents and purposes, over. Yet it all feeds into this feeling, doesn't it? A sense of great disorder, like we're standing at a massive turning point in history. But what if all this chaos isn't actually chaotic? What if it's all following a script that was written centuries ago? And that brings us to Ray Dalio's master theory. He calls it the big cycle, and it's pretty wild. He studied 500 years of history and found this clear, repeating pattern in how great powers rise and, well, how they fall. Just look at this timeline and you can see the pattern he's talking about. First, you had the Dutch Empire and their currency, the guilder, on top of the world. Then the British Empire came along with the pound sterling. And since 1945, it's been the United States and the almighty dollar. Dalio noticed that these empires tend to last for about 250 years, with some pretty turbulent handoffs in between. So here's where it gets really interesting. Each empire kind of follows the same internal playbook. It all starts with a new order, usually born out of a massive war. That leads to a period of peace and prosperity. But as people get comfortable, they start borrowing more and more. This creates a huge financial bubble, and the gap between the rich and poor gets wider and wider. Eventually, that bubble bursts. To fix it, the government just prints tons of money, which only fuels more conflict inside the country and weakens the empire just as new rivals are getting stronger on the outside. So, the big question, the one we all want to know, is where are we in this cycle right now? Well, according to Dalio, all the signs are pointing to a very specific and very turbulent stage. Dalio's diagnosis? We are firmly in stage 6. This is what he calls the period of great disorder. It's a time when all the established rules of how countries deal with each other just break down. It becomes a game of might is right, and it's defined by this clash between the old, weakening power and the new, rising powers. And this chart just lays it out so clearly. Think about the era after World War II. That was an early stage order. You had strong American leadership, peace, and prosperity that was lifting a lot of boats. Now, look at today. In this late stage disorder, we've got a weakening dominant power, rising conflict both at home and abroad, and these extreme social divisions that are just fueled by massive wealth gaps. Okay, so what does this great disorder actually look like in the real world? Dalio says it escalates through 5 different, but connected, types of war. And these aren't just theories. We're seeing them play out right now. We've got trade wars with tariffs and new restrictions. We've got technology wars to control who has the best innovation. We have geopolitical wars fought over alliances and influence. And capital wars that use sanctions and financial weapons. Dalio's big warning is that these economic and financial conflicts often ramp up for a long time before you get to the final stage, an actual military war. And a classic textbook symptom of an empire in this late stage, which often fuels these conflicts, is just staggering amounts of debt. As the government tries to spend its way out of problems, the debt just balloons. Right now, the U.S. national debt is over $37 trillion. That's a number that just screams financial strain. At the exact same time, we're seeing all the signs of a classic financial bubble. Now, this chart looks a bit technical, but the idea is pretty simple. It's called the CAPE ratio, and it basically measures if the stock market is overvalued in the long run. Today, that number is approaching 40. To put that in perspective, the only time in modern history it was higher was right before the dot-com bubble burst back in 1999. All right. So you're hearing all this, a massive global shift, a potential bubble, the breakdown of the old order. And you're probably thinking, okay, great. What in the world does this mean for my money? How do you even begin to protect your wealth in a world this unstable? Dalio really doesn't mince words here. He argues that during times like these, governments pay for conflicts by borrowing and printing huge sums of money. And that process just destroys the value of both cash and investments based on debt, like bonds. So what holds its value? Well, historically, the one asset that shines through these periods is gold. The most important point here is to not put all your eggs in one basket. I mean, that's always true, but it's crucial now. The key is diversification. You want a balanced mix of different kinds of assets, some global stocks for growth, gold to protect against a falling currency, real estate to fight inflation, and maybe even a small, measured slice of crypto for that high-risk potential. Having that variety is what can save you when one part of the system starts to fail. But here's the thing to remember. The end of a big cycle isn't just about collapse and chaos. It's always a transition. The breakdown of one world order is happening at the same time that a new one is being created, shaped by whoever comes out on top of the conflict. And that leaves us with the most important question of all. History shows us that these transitions are almost never peaceful because the dominant power doesn't just hand over the keys without a fight. So as this massive cycle turns and a new world order is forged, the ultimate question is, who will have the power to write the new rules?